So who votes has become the most important questions in politics. With advances in micro-targeting and statistical modeling of individual voters, determining who votes has become as important, if not more important, than actually persuading voters. Persuading voters to vote for you is much harder than finding people who are already inclined to vote for you and getting them to turn out and show up. So, who actually votes? Well, I have a quick bullet points here, a few of them anyway. Education has a strong impact on turnout. More educated people are more likely to vote. Age is also important. Older individuals have higher turnout rate than younger individuals. Blacks and Hispanics are less likely to vote, as are those who live in southern states or those that border the southern states. Other things being equal, men and women vote at basically the same rate. Women vote at a slightly higher rate, but the pattern hasn't really been established long enough to determine if this is a trend or if it's individual elections, and it's not that big of a difference. You can roughly say men and women vote about the same amount. Much of the reason for this and the decision is the cost-benefit analysis behind voting. The idea comes from a dissertation written by political scientist Anthony Downs, or Tony, as I like to call him. The basic idea is that people do things where the expected benefit outweighs the cost. So, what are the benefits of voting? Basically, your primary actual benefit is that your candidate wins and you get whatever change in policy will be brought on by that policy, by that candidate, if you will. We'll call that the B in the equation on this slide. But returning to the collective action problems, the free rider issue, you can get this policy if your candidate wins, regardless of whether you vote or not. So the P in the equation is the probability that you're going to cast the winning vote for the candidate you wanted to win. Think about that for a minute. What are the odds that any one person casts a deciding vote in an election? There's a paper, I think probably back in 2012 or something like that tried to statistically model this number. And it turned out that someone in Ohio had the highest probability of influencing a presidential election because Ohio is a swing state with a relatively large number of electoral votes. And her odds of casting that deciding vote was something in like 1 in 3 million. So, going back to 2012, multiply the benefit you get from Obama being president instead of Romney by 1 divided by 3 million. That's a small number for the non-math majors out there. So the benefit you get is virtually zero, no matter how big that benefit is. The probability number is still so small that it cancels it out and makes it asymptotically approach zero. Now think about the cost of voting, or the C in this equation. You have to take time off of work. You have to learn about the candidates to cast a meaningful vote. If you're an introvert like me, you have to stand in line and talk to your neighbors. You have to deal with the old people who run the polling place, etc., etc. Potentially you have to take time off of work if you work an hourly job. You have to drive down there. You have to find a babysitter. You have to do all these things. These sorts of things all take away from things we'd rather be doing, like watching bad reality TV or studying for political science exams. So there's a cost, and even if this cost is small for you personally, it's still likely greater than the value of this probability, 1 in 3 million, times the benefit on the left side of the equation. So the logical conclusion here is that Anthony Downs, Tony, argues that no one should ultimately vote because for no one is that benefit higher than the cost. Therefore, voters act irrationally by going to the polling place. They act in their own, not in their own self-interest. William Riker, or Billy as I like to call him, argued for what he called the D term much later, which was the idea of civic duty. People feel an obligation to vote because of the social pressure, civic duty, and get some sort of psychic benefit from voting. Think about all the people you see wearing the I voted today stickers or putting the I voted status on Facebook, whatever. They do it because it expresses something about them. They participated in the ritual of voting and are proud to do so. This D term must be large enough to overcome the costs of voting, given that the likelihood of casting a decisive vote is virtually zero. People enjoy voting so much and being sort of smug about having voted that they end up showing up despite there being costs.